Hello and welcome. This is the Insurance ProBlog Podcast. I am Brandon Roberts.
And I am Brantley Whitley.
And you are listening to the internet's favorite podcast about life insurance.
That's right.
Life insurance. It's such a fun subject.
I don't have anything clever to say to that today.
That's okay. After all these episodes, you just run out of creativity.
I know. I would like to say, however, that if you have any questions about life insurance or annuities or how you're going to create
life
any
in
income
general
for yourself in retirement, you should come over to the insuranceproblog.com. I think there's a navigation link that says reach out or let's get in touch or let's talk or something like that. And there's also buttons on the homepage that will allow you to schedule a call with us. They are prominently displayed and you can get on our calendar. And we may or may not be able.
Colors.
Yeah, we may or may not be able to help you.
That's a stud and strong.
Yeah, I don't know anything about contrasting yellow colors. That disturbs me because I'm like, I don't think there's supposed to be any yellow colors there. But okay.
Well, they render yellow on my screen, but are kind of maybe, I don't know.
Oh, I have my monitor. I have all the white light turned down on my monitor, so probably everything looks way different than it's supposed to on my screens, and I'll go, yeah, that looks good. I forget about that sometimes. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the third bucket.
The third bucket.
That's right.
Not the third stool. The third leg. Stool leg. Third leg. Wow.
You really messed that up.
I did.
All the people who are as old as us or older than us will remember their life insurance training in the first week. You learned about the three-legged stool of life insurance.
Yep.
That's what Brandon was trying to refer to.
Yeah. So many milking references here. I don't know where these people are.
Well, all these companies came out of the Midwest, so
yeah,
there's that.
There is that.
So we're talking about the third bucket, which actually has something to do with life insurance. I know everyone's like, the third bucket? What does that have to do with anything?
It has to do with taxes. That's what it has to do with.
That's right.
So today we want to talk strategically about how you go about thinking about life insurance as part of your retirement plan.
Right.
And how you'll coordinate it with the other assets that you have. And cue the dramatic music. We are not only the internet's favorite podcast about life insurance. Yep. We are, I'm going to argue, the only insurance agents possibly in the country who are going to tell you it's okay to have taxable money in retirement.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You don't have to try that hard to get to zero. I mean, you can if you want to, but for a lot of people, that's going to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah. But
to get themselves into a zero tax bracket.
Yeah. Yes. But there's a lot of things that you can do and a lot of strategy behind qualified funds. So the stuff that you deduct when you put it in your 401k, traditional IRA, whatever it is, the almost heretical statement that I'm making here is it's okay. You can and you should do some of that. You do not have to put everything in non-taxable places.
Right. And the flip side of that argument is that you should not put all of your money into those qualified plans.
No, you shouldn't put all of your money into anything as far as taxability is concerned.
Yep.
So there has been a very long-running tendency for people in the financial planning world, retirement preparedness world, life insurance world to tell you that taxable retirement assets are terrible.
That's right.
Like terrible. And look, the average person, I would hazard the guess, probably has 95% of their retirement savings in a taxable account, which is not great. But
you mean a taxable account or taxable?
A taxable account. A tax qualified account. So 401k, IRA, or traditional IRA style account. You've deducted the money, and when you take it out, you owe ordinary income taxes on that entire withdrawal.
Every dollar.
Yep.
Is taxable.
Yep. There is a hyper concentration.
Counts toward your tax liability. That's probably more accurate, right?
Yes, there's a small sliver of the population that would technically correct us on that, but let's be honest, it's like 95% of our 5 listeners. So that is a good technical correction to make.
And the reason we're making this point is because what we see happen a lot with the people that we talk to, that we work with, is that they're quite wealthy on paper.
Yeah.
In that they have 7-figure 401k balances, or 401k combined with rollover IRAs, which were old 401ks from jobs that they had in the past, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But for our purposes, it's all qualified money. It's all going to be taxed the same way when they start taking distributions. So we'll often see, and these are totally made up numbers, but just, bear with us here because I think you'll get the point. We'll often see an individual or a married couple that has an income of, let's say, $250,000 to $500,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they have $1.2 million in qualified funds that could be rollover IRAs, 401ks, combination. And they'll have $75,000 in a savings account.
Yep.
And that's it. And look, that's a noteworthy achievement. You've done really well. You've done a lot of things right, in fact. But the conversation we have with people all the time, and we've mentioned this before, is when you're at that level of earnings, the jobs are demanding, very demanding. Yep. And typically they've been really busting it for a long time, and 20 plus years, and they're just tired. And they get to their early 50s, mid 50s, and they're like, I'd really like to stop doing this. I don't know that I want to stop working altogether, but I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is they don't have any money outside of their 401k or their IRA or whatever that they can use in a meaningful way. I mean, they have their emergency fund savings, but that's not to be used. That's, when the poop hits the fan money. And that's a good thing. You should have that. But they've sort of boxed themselves into a corner by, quote unquote, doing all the things right.
Yeah.
And so what we're suggesting in diversifying your income sources, your accounts, we don't mean just having lots of accounts at different brokerages or banks. That's not what we're talking about. We mean the tax characterization of it, the availability of it, because they've got an obvious problem. If they're 55 and they want to retire and they've got $1.2 million in retirement accounts, well, they got 4.5, 5 years. I got to figure out, how am I going to do this?
Yep.
And then they've got a looming tax liability on the other side, to get back to your point.
They do. And want to lean on the fact that that is not a great situation. But I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here and suggest that the solution is you burn that all to the ground and go jump on this. We should just buy a whole bunch of life insurance, or put all of it in Roth IRAs, or whatever it is, because we absolutely cannot have a tax liability. That's horrible. That's bad. There's so many pitches that sound great, but when you really start to think practically about this, the wheels fall off. Like you're signing up for a deal with the IRS where they still own half of your money, or whatever the weird story is. The truth is, there's this sort of fear model that gets used to try and push people just indiscriminately into tax-free options, Roth IRAs or life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are good from the strategic point of view, but everything requires moderation.
Right.
Because the idea that taxes are just going to go up uncontrollably has been a suggestion made by many for as long as I've been around, which
correct.
It's getting uncomfortably close to a decade count that we can put a 2 in front of now.
Right.
And tax rates are actually slightly lower than they were, for the most part, when I first entered the industry.
Yes.
And we talk about historical tax rates, especially historical top marginal income tax rates, and how they look on a graph compared to where they are today. And then we have all the government spending, and there's the suggestion that there's no place for this to go but up. But there's a lot more nuance to the discussion. One of the greatest ones that comes up is if you look at historical tax rates, especially the top marginal income tax rate, it looks like they fall off a cliff in the 80s.
Right.
Because there was massive legislative initiatives that sought to reduce nominal, and that is the operative term here, tax rates, especially top tax rates.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There were also several provisions of the tax code that made the effective tax rate back then basically what it is today.
Right.
Because the legislation that came about in the 1980s that supposedly slashed all of those tax rates sought to be pretty much tax neutral in terms of what it ultimately did to the tax collections of the U.S. Treasury and the payments made by Americans. It got rid of a bunch of ways to avoid taxes while simplifying the system and reducing rates.
Right.
But net proceeds, net inflows really didn't change very much.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, if we think about it, top marginal income tax bracket in the mid 80s, 70%, very, very high, but was effectively applied to what would today be an income of $215,000.
Right.
That's where the top rate.
And that's only for the portion above
215. Yep.
Right.
Today, you don't fall into the top marginal income tax bracket as a single filer till you make $626,000.
Right.
And that's only 39.6%.
Right.
If I remember, or maybe it's a little higher. I can't remember.
I can't remember. It was 39.9. I don't know. It's in that ballpark.
Yeah, according to the internet, it's 37%. Look at us. We're both wrong. We do good prep at theinsuranceproblog.com.
Yeah.
Hooray. So my very long drawn out point is
as we've always said, you get from it as much as you pay for it. So that's
my very long drawn out point is simply to say that you can earn more today and still pay fewer taxes than was the case 40 years ago.
Correct.
And it's going to take a lot to get back to where we were 40 years ago.
Yeah. And there were brackets before the 80s that were above 70. So,
yeah, they were. I mean, but this idea that you just have to hyper-focus on everything tax-free, no, it's a bad idea because there are provisions to the tax code that you do want to capitalize on once you are retired that will allow you to have taken advantage of the tax deduction that you got when you saved the money in your 401k or traditional IRA and potentially reduce the taxes that are ultimately paid by a substantial amount.
Right.
So let us remind you that everybody can take the standard deduction from their tax calculation. Some people itemize, far fewer do now than used to because the standard deduction has grown substantially.
Yep.
Standard deduction for a married couple is $29,400, $200, $29,200, I think is the number. I'm trying to look at my notes to find. Yeah, $29,200. So that means you can recognize $29,200 of ordinary income, and your taxable income is zero.
Right.
You can also earn up to $96,000, now almost 97, and remain in the 12% tax bracket.
Yep.
So think about this for a minute. If you get to retirement, you have qualified funds. So those are things that were saved in a 401k or traditional IRA. And you withdraw $100,000 from that.
Mm-hmm.
You get to take the $29,200 deduction. So we're talking $70,800. You'll owe 12% income taxes on that. I'm talking married couple here for the tax rates, which means your tax bill is $8,496.
Right.
Which means your effective tax rate on the $100,000 of income is 8.5%.
Right. It's not catastrophic.
Here's the very important part that we want to talk about to everybody who's out there, probably in their late 40s through mid 60s, because you're probably falling in or near the point of highest earnings at that point. If you are paying, let's say, 32%, because you fall into that bracket on your income, and you take a deduction because you're putting it in your 401k, you now have potentially reduced your tax bill on that sum of money from 32% all the way down to qualified funds.
Right.
But not exclusively. That's the thing we want to hammer here. Because we get way too lost in the world of tax-free is the only way to be.
Bumper stickers available now.
Or you can stick it on the side of your toaster.
We're
cool with that.
We'll just have it imprinted on the toaster when we send it to you.
There you go. Engraved. Now, that all out of the way, the reason we want tax-free income or tax-free assets that create tax-free income is it provides substantially more flexibility.
Right.
So, give you an example. One that I know I have guided people through, and I think you have as well. Somebody is retired. They are collecting income from their assets. They are pretty systematic with the way that they receive income from those assets.
Mm-hmm.
Every month, let's say they get X amount of dollars from their IRA. And as a typical American, it's pretty much all taxable assets. So all of that distribution is counted up as ordinary income. We're sitting in the month of November. They just found out that their roof leaks and they're going to need $20,000 to fix it.
Yep.
They think, not that big a deal. I have almost $2 million in my 401k. Right. So I'm simply going to take another $20,000 out of my 401k. At which point I have to tell them, no, you're going to have to take more like $35,000-ish out of your 401k because you'll need to pay the taxes on this distribution. And it's going to have to potentially go up from there because we have to account for all of the distributions that you additionally took out this year and find out whether or not this outsized withdrawal of $20,000 is going to push you into a new income tax bracket.
Right.
And then we got to sit down and we got to figure out what other potential problems this creates for other taxable situations. Social Security taxability, IRMAA, if you are qualified for any kind of income-based rebate on property taxes or whatever, all of those things might influence or be influenced by this withdrawal. Or you could maybe staple a tarp to the roof and put down some buckets just in case it fails and wait till November. And then we're going to have to figure out how we modify your income each month going forward. But that's a strategy too that we could pursue.
I like that. That's the Georgia method. There's really nothing a blue tarp can't fix. Somebody's got to keep Harbor Freight afloat.
Hey, blue tarp and duct tape is
that's right.
Fixed many a problem, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a real issue. Now, if on the other hand, we've got money in the 401k and we've got money in Roth accounts or life insurance, and we need $20,000. We go to the Roth or life insurance and we take the $20,000 because that has zero impact on the taxability of our income.
Correct.
Has zero impact on the taxability of our Social Security, adds zero impact to the possibility of IRMAA on our Medicare premiums, has zero impact in most cases for individuals who have income sensitive, other taxable, like local municipal taxable rebate situations. So we have additional flexibility, additional options with respect to where the money comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And that puts us in a far less stressed situation.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Now, to the CFPs that are listening, who are going to say, I agree with you, but why do you need to buy life insurance? Because you could just have a Roth IRA.
Right.
This is true, in part. But there are some things life insurance does bring to the table that Roth IRAs do not. So first, Roth IRAs have a pretty low limit in terms of contribution every single year.
Yep.
Life insurance does not.
Right.
Roth IRAs do have an income limitation for accessibility. And yes, there's a way to get around that. Life insurance does not. Roth IRAs do restrict the age at which you have access to the money in terms of growth. Basis you can take back, but not growth.
Sure.
Life insurance does not. And this one we have not spent near enough time talking about. Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, do not allow you to put additional contributions into the account once you are retired because you must have earned income to contribute to
Right.
it.
Yes.
Life insurance does not have that limitation.
Yep.
So if
the only caveat to that is if it's a spousal thing, but one of the two has to have earned income.
yes, correct. Yes. But if you're a married couple, you're both retired, and let's say you sell a property for way more money than you thought you were going to, or you receive an inheritance, which is a much more likely scenario for people than I think a lot of us think is the case.
Yeah.
You can't take that money and put it in your Roth IRA.
Right.
You can't put it in your traditional IRA.
Mhm.
But there are a number of situations where you could get that money into a life insurance policy.
Right.
And benefit from the tax friendliness that cash now has. So, yes, Roth IRAs are great, and Roth IRAs open up certain investment options that you'll never get inside life insurance.
Very true.
But life insurance is a much wider open door when it comes to saving capacity.
I mean, I would always say if you could do both, you should do both.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we work with a lot of people who the contribution limits are a stumbling block because they're like, well, that's such a small percentage of my overall income.
Mm-hmm.
And then the income limits are a problem.
Yep.
They can't even get the 7,000 or 8,000, depending if you're over 50. They can't even get that in there because it phases out the what am I trying to say? The availability to use a Roth phases out as your income increases.
Mm-hmm. We do have the backdoor conversion option, which is fine.
Yeah.
And people in the income restriction boat should do that, but that doesn't eliminate the annual contribution limit.
Right.
So life insurance is one of the non-taxable buckets in retirement. And non-taxable buckets are great, but they are not something that you should do 100% of.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, the thing that you should hear and take from today's episode is we're trying to build optionality because that is the greatest hedge you can possibly create in retirement.
Yes.
If you find yourself in a singular style of taxable consequence or a singular style of market risk reality.
Yep. I was going to add that.
There are a number of things that can happen that are going to make your universe of options shrink very quickly.
Yes.
And that is a very anxiety-inducing set of circumstances.
Yes. I mean, well, we're right in the middle of, a very tumultuous and volatile market right now.
Yep.
Beyond the market, I would just say economically, period. Macroeconomically, we're in a weird, one of those moments in time. Optionality is a great thing to have right now.
Yeah.
If you need income, you probably want to take it from the most stable source at the moment.
Right.
Because, if the mantra of buy low and sell high is the one you live by, then right now is not the sell high moment. So
right. Yeah. And this creates a lot of issues. What happens if now is the point that the roof needs to be repaired?
Right.
All of your money is in a 401k and it's all basically been in some sort of stable growth fund.
Right.
And we say that, and I know there are people who are probably like I was years ago, and you think, well, nobody does that. Like, people diversify. We've been told to diversify forever. No, they don't.
Mm-mm. That's not what our experience shows us. It's most people are very lopsided.
Yep. Both risk and tax profile.
Yes.
because they defaulted into some fund in their 401k 15 years ago. And the account balance has grown to something that they didn't think they'd have by now.
Yep.
So that fund is the most amazing fund in the world, and it's the only one they want to own.
Right. I'm not saying this is not patronizing. Like, I'm not trying to wag my finger at people. We've seen a lot of other people do is they have a hodgepodge of things that they own. And, they've got whatever's in their 401k, they've got whatever's in their rollover IRA, maybe they have a Roth, maybe they did some conversions and they've got whatever they've got in there. Then they've got some other money that lives in the taxable world, and they got some bonds that they bought, and they got some fixed annuities that they bought, and they got some, and all those things are fine. There's nothing wrong with any of those assets. The problem is they haven't thought about how those coordinate at all. They just have things and they go, I'm diversified. It's like, well, in a matter of speaking, yes. I mean, you are diversified in that you own lots of different things, but there was no plan as to how they actually work together. And so, I mean, and like, how am I going to spend those? Are they going to provide income? And how are they, one of the deeper things that I think about a lot, and I think you do too, is how are they correlated?
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to react? Here we are in late March 2026. How are all of these things going to react in this moment?
That's a fantastically good point. And it really is one that people don't think much about. And I get the idea that a lot of it's intimidating and in some cases boring. A lot of people want very simplified understandings of these things. So, Stocks risky, bonds safe. I own both. Things are good. Yeah. 2022 happens. What the hell just happened?
Right. 2008 happens. I mean, yes.
So it's more complicated than that. And
yes, it is.
If you want an oversimplification, life insurance brings an amazing amount of diversification to your portfolio in a way that is hard to go in the direction against what you were thinking.
Yep.
It doesn't go down. So we don't have to worry about that element. That's why we have always considered it the least correlated asset.
Yep.
Among all of the other items that you can buy. And if that phrasing seems a little like, when stocks go up, life insurance goes up a little bit. When stocks go down, life insurance goes up a little bit. When bonds go up, life insurance goes up a little bit. When bonds go down, life insurance goes up a little bit. I hope you're getting the trend now.
It consistently goes up a little bit.
Yep, there you go.
Hey, I learned.
And that is a fantastic diversifier because anything, whatever happens, a war breaks out, a tweet gets made, whatever the thing.
Yeah.
Your stocks and bonds can go haywire. Your Bitcoin can go very haywire.
Mm-hmm. Your gold and silver.
Can do some crazy things. Life insurance, it's going to go up a little bit.
It yawns.
And that's just the way it works. And that puts you in a position where now we have tax-free income, so we don't have to worry about the taxable liability or implication. But we also don't really care what's going on in the broader market.
Right.
So is now a good time to take money out of my life insurance policy? Or a bad time? The answer is yes.
Time is it? Yeah.
And that creates a level of portfolio diversification that, again, nearly 20 years now, you're over 20 years. I have yet to find something that introduces that level of diversification period.
Yeah.
And believe you me, I have looked.
Brandon would love to sell something other than life insurance.
I have looked.
Sure. Yes.
And I haven't found it.
No. It's very unique. It holds a very unique position in the marketplace.
I get that in the beginning, a lot of this is theoretical for people. Mm-hmm. And so when you're like 35 years old, you hear this and you go, oh, okay. But my wife wants to go to Bora Bora and I want to buy whatever. And that sounds like an old people later problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just, if you start to get it, it's still like, but what we have observed for the individuals who probably didn't believe us or whomever was talking about it at the time, but just went along with it and then got to their mid 60s and they suddenly had a bunch of cash sitting in life insurance and something happened and they got to actually see it in action. That's when they go, oh.
Yep.
Now I get it. And the fortunate thing about you and I, because we're not yet in our 60s, is the fact that we got to watch that moment happen for people.
Yep.
Which made us understand it very intimately way sooner than we were supposed to.
Right. That is true. I never thought about that. Sort of in a unique position in that regard.
And that's all I got.
Okay.
So I am Brandon Roberts.
And I am Brantley Whitley.
And we will see you next week.